morning, everybody, and welcome to High Heat. Nice to have with us on this Tuesday. Kit Kat presents. As we talked about what's going on as far as the world of baseball is concerned, kudos to our staff that got us on the air here this morning. Alana momentarily, but we've had a lot of internet problems where I am, and we will see if we can do a good program for you in the next 60 as we get you set for a day of baseball on this 9th day of April here in 2024. Let me give you a little addendum here first. I had Darrell Evans on yesterday. He, of course, the old third baseman for the Braves, the Tigers, the Giants, won a championship with Detroit. The 84 Tigers, of course, that great team, hit 414 home runs. Anyway, I had him on to talk about Henry Aaron because he was on base when Henry hit the 715, of course, against Al Downing, which we celebrated yesterday here on the network. And, of course, MLB Now down there in Atlanta, the whole 9 yards. I'm going to give you 4 or 5 things that he said. Now, I know that they did plenty of it, but Evans said some interesting things. First off, before I do the White Sox in the Marlins, you'd rather hear me talk about Evans anyway. Number one, he said in Evans, and he was on the Braves from 1969 on. He hit 40 homers the year before, so he is an everyday player who batted third. And he said that nobody really paid attention to Henry on the home run chase until he got to number 700. Now, maybe he misread that. It was after they broke Mays at 660, but he said it's almost like America found out about Henry Aaron when he got to that number at number 700. I thought that was interesting. He hit, obviously, 713 2 days before the end of the regular season in 1973, and it's almost like Henry did not want to hit the tying home run the last day of the season because when he hit the home run 713, you know what he did? He brought Davey Johnson and Evans to meet the media with him because that happened to be Aaron's 40th home run, and then the Braves with Davey's 43 and Darrell's 41 became the first baseball team ever to have 3 guys hit 40 home runs, and Aaron celebrated that with his 2 teammates the second to last day of the season. He realized that playing only 2 games in Cincinnati was the right thing, but everybody's very livid about Bowie Kuhn, who we figured who did not show up at the record-breaking home run there against Downing on that Monday night. He was on base, Evans, for basically 5 of the big home runs of Aaron's run, 700, 7.5, 7.10. He was on base constantly, so he got a chance to greet Aaron at home plate. And, in fact, he was very annoyed at Lopes and Russell because he wanted to be the first player to congratulate Henry when he crossed the plate in Atlanta, but Lopes and Russell did it on the field as Henry was circling the bases. And Darrell could not stop complimenting Eddie Matthews, who was obviously Aaron's teammate, and Eddie, of course, was Aaron's manager, and he said Eddie did an unbelievably good job of sort of being his confidant during this whole process and sort of protecting him from the media and everything else during the chase of Ruth. What a job, according to Evans, by Eddie Matthews, of course, Hall of Famer first baseman in his own right. We keep an eye on that. And the last thing that was interesting, when Evans and Dusty Baker came up together in 1969, remember Dusty hit cleanup that night and Evans hit third, a lot of people compared them to the Matthews and Aaron combination in the 50s, sort of being the bookend guys on that great team, Braves team in Milwaukee, which I thought was interesting. Sort of Dusty and Darrell getting compared to Evans, getting compared to Matthews and Aaron, the generation before. Anyway, I enjoyed the spot yesterday, of course, on the radio. Let's do a couple things here on the 2 terrible teams right now, and you have to be very worried about both the Marlins and the White Sox. You both knew that they're going to be very spotty in the course of the year. I don't think anybody thought the Marlins would be 1-10. And boy, you can talk about, sort of the feel of the season beginning right out of the gate. And it began for Miami on opening day when they blew leads to the Pirates, lost in the extra innings after they had many chances to win in the 10th and the 11th and did not, lose to Pittsburgh. Pirates used that game to catapult themselves to a 9-2 start, and I think it really set a bad precedent and was an awful omen for Miami, who have had a terrible start. A million injuries with their pitching staff. They don't hit a lot. Arise obviously hasn't done very well to start the year, and he's a big hitter. They got rid of Soler, which bothered people. The GM was fired or let go, well, not let go, fired, but left because of, in her eyes, being demoted. Can't argue with that. They bring Bendix in from Tampa. That's been a disaster so far. They sort of together, Schumacher and the Marlins essentially void the option to his contract for next year, which tells you that Schumacher either doesn't want to be in a long-term rebuilding situation, or that Bendix, who didn't hire Schumacher, wants to assess the season, wants to go in a different direction. They don't draw. I mean, it really is a mess in Miami. They're out of the race. They're not making the playoffs. They're not going to be a postseason team. They're not going to threaten for the postseason. They traded Birdie before the year began. The Marlins are bad, and this is going to be, and they're bad in a bad market, and this is going to be a problem here all year long to see what comes of Miami. And it's looked like, I watched a little of the game yesterday, it's almost like they checked out already, getting buried by the Yankees. That's number one. And the White Sox, too, we knew they'd be spotty as well. I think the White Sox have a plan. It's a big franchise. They've won before. The owner has been successful. So I don't think it's as dire as the Marlins thing is. They've been in baseball in Chicago on the South Side for 150 years. So I think there's a future there, but they're a mess too. The Cease trade, is what it was. They got maybe a lot of prospects who might be good, but that was a white flag before the year began. They got a lot of injuries. Jimenez, Robert, nobody knows what they're going to do with. Signing Benintendi turns out to be a disaster. They gave him a huge contract. He doesn't hit. He was bad last year. He's awful this year. He hasn't lived up to it. That's a major problem. They're 1-9. They never score any runs. Their offense is horrendous. Their pitching has been decent, but they can't score. They don't really, Kopech's doing his best. He's not really a closer. The team's a disaster. And that's a bad division. The Marlins are at least, they're in a good division. So if they lose to the Phillies or the Braves, all right, they haven't played them yet. But if they lose to them, they can live with it. They played the Marlins and they played the Pirates and the Angels. They should be better than this. But the White Sox are playing these bad. Detroit is okay. Royals are okay. The Guardians are okay. But they've won one game and they can't hit. And when you can't hit, it's a disaster because nobody wants to go to a ball game or go to a ballpark to see a team, just basically, I think they've scored, 13 runs in about 9-10 games? I mean, it really is pathetic. And it's not like Kansas City is pitching Dennis Leonard out there every day. So major issues for the White Sox, major issues for the Marlins. We knew the White Sox were going to rebuild. Their over-under number at the beginning of the year was 60.5. Right now, bet the under. And you knew the Marlins were going to have trouble after last year's good season. Their over-under number was 76.5. They are going to go nowhere near that as far as the year is concerned. They're going to make some changes. They don't like what they did with Schumacher, who obviously was the manager of the year last year. Now, that might be as much as him than it is on the team. They're rudderless. It's a major problem with the Marlins. Those two teams right now. And again, you can say anything you want. You can get at me all you want. It's true. One team is 1-10. They're out of it. They are not making the playoffs or not going to threaten. And the other team is 1-9, and they're done too. Boy, when you can say that on April 9th, that's a major problem. So that's where we begin on a busy afternoon, busy morning as far as high heat is concerned. It's good to have you with us here on this Tuesday. Again, kudos to our great staff, seriously, who put us on the air here today, at least on my end. But Alana can carry us, and she says hello on this 9th day of April. Hello, Alana. How are you today? Okay?
Hello, Chris. Good morning. I think I know exactly how your afternoon went yesterday. After we got off the air, I think you probably went and had a lunch, maybe a sandwich or something, and then you made sure that you were out there for the eclipse. I don't think I've ever seen anything this exciting. Look at Chris Mad Dog Russo. Look at you. You look so happy looking at the solar eclipse. I don't know that you had the totality in New Canaan, Connecticut, but you look good. And I find it interesting too, Christopher, that other than Darrell Evans, that you wanted to talk about the two baseball games that were over way before the NCAA championship started. So maybe you watched a little bit of baseball before you watched a whole lot of basketball. Congratulations to the UConn Huskies. Of course, Tim Russo used to work for UConn. He's now at Northern in Arizona. But the Huskies, back-to-back champions. Congratulations to them. Dan Hurley doing a tremendous job with UConn. Good on them. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the Marlins and the White Sox, as you mentioned. The Marlins, this is what happens when you try to run franchise like you did in Tampa Bay. You bring over Peter Bendix, who did a great job with the Tampa Bay Rays when he led the team there in that small market. But the Rays do things a certain way. You can't bring that same mentality over to a bigger market team. And that's exactly what they're trying to do with the Marlins. They don't hit. They can't pitch. They don't have fans in the ballpark. I don't know how you let Kim Ng go, walk away from the situation. How insulting to have Kim Ng there, who has, I believe, a better resume than Peter Bendix, and you want to bring in somebody above her after they made the postseason in the 2023 season. I mean, take a look at this. They're going to be sellers at the deadline, obviously, because they're not going anywhere. Jesus Luzardo would be their biggest pitching trade chip. Chris, right now, he's 0 for 2. And he has a 7.20 ERA. He just gave up 6 runs in 1 inning to the Yankees. They can't pitch. They can't hit. Their ERA is 5.40. It's 27th in the bigs, 24th in Major League Baseball as far as runs scored at 3.6 per games. And the White Sox aren't doing that much better. You mentioned 1-9 start. They're averaging just a run and a half a game. 1.5 runs per game the White Sox offense is managing. Andrew Benintendi hitting just 154. 5 of the 9 starters, Chris, are hitting below 200. Below the Mendoza line, and that's actually a winnable division. The Marlins don't have a shot in hell of winning the NL East or making the wild card. The White Sox are in a very winnable division, and they're just not able to put anything together. They're hurt. They're averaging nothing per game as far as runs are scored. They've been shut out 4 times in 10 games, and 2 other games with just one run each. They're not doing anything right on either side of the ball.
Yeah, excellent point, Alana. You can't win with that. And, Benintendi, they paid him the biggest contract ever. You got to hit a little better. He didn't do anything last year. You got to hit better than 154. I mean, this is a
He also has no protection in the lineup either. He has no protection in the lineup either. So, I mean, yes, he has to hit better.
Good hitters hit. Good hitters hit. I mean, I don't buy the protection. Not plus the fact he's not a cleanup hitter. Good hitters hit. I mean, good hitters go out there and make a contract. He hasn't done anything. Got to be honest. You got to do better than that. All right. And listen, you're right on both points. The White Sox can't. Was it? I said 13. It's 16 runs. And of course, the Marlins. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. It's a disaster.
There is a speed bump on the front. There is a speed bump on the front. There is a speed bump on the front.